All right, Chris, the final episode of Raw just concluded, and SummerSlam hype is over. Do you think, we'll start with this, they got people more excited about an event, the biggest event of the summer as they market it? Do you think this show maximized what they could do to get people to make sure that they're scheduling themselves to watch Saturday?
Did it maximize them? I would say no. I would say overall, I think it did a good job of moving along some stories and kind of getting people excited. I think there's some ways that could have been better, but overall, I would say yes, that they did a good job of getting people ready for the show on Saturday.
Yeah, I think they did too. I think if I had any concern, I don't even know if it's a concern. I mean, the brawl at the end with Damian Priest and Gunther was good, and it explains why they did the Finn Balor match, because sometimes you wonder why are they booking what they're booking, and then you see what they do for a finish or as a post match. It's like, oh, that's why that match existed, and that is why that match existed. And I think it was good to give away some of those two just brawling real intensely, and Cole saying something's got to give at SummerSlam. I guess no, I don't even know that as Chris, because I really did like what they did with Priest in his vignette, and then Gunther's response. So I was gonna throw a little shade on the idea that it didn't feel like they maximized that, but as I'm kind of thinking it through, some of the gaps in making it feel like this historically significant match because of what it would mean for Gunther to win the title was offset by them elevating the personal nature between the two of them. With Gunther judging Priest in a way for hurting the prestige of the title, and that he wants to take the belt to restore prestige. And then Priest going, I was raised on the street. You were given this pampered treatment, training, and everyone telling you how good you were. So I actually think ultimately they did a good job, because they added, I think, amplified the personal nature between the two of them. What do you think about that in particular?
Yeah, I think they made a really good job of not making it just being this was the title match you have on the show, and there's actually a bit of personal animosity between the two of them, even though it was kind of new, or the last couple of weeks they came up with that. It brings more to the title than just that this is the champion and this just is just the guy who won King of the Ring and they're supposed to wrestle. When I was criticizing the way that they hyped the show, I was referring mostly to the opening promo between Seth, Drew, and CM Punk more than Damian Priest versus Gunther.
Yeah, I was thinking of leading with that, and then it's like that might be a longer discussion than the few minutes that we do in our opening segment before we get into introductions and that kind of thing. But so I'm gonna delay that until topic 2, even though it is kind of the A topic, because I have some things to say about that and some notes from in the building too, from Joel Donnell, who attended tonight in St. Paul. The decision, obviously, it's not a decision they're making now, because they made the decision a while back, which is who's going to win this match between Gunther and Priest. And I think most people assume it's going to be Priest, but we do have the Berlin show coming up. And so that could be Gunther's first title defense against somebody different. It could be title defense against Damian Priest in a rematch, or it could be Priest retains on Saturday and somehow Gunther gets another shot. We've seen that with Braun Breaker and Sammy, where you can lose but get another title shot. So I want to get your thoughts on the different scenarios and where you think they're going to go with these next two PLEs, starting with SummerSlam.
Yeah, I think Gunther is going to win. I don't think the Braun Breaker storyline is a bit different, because you have the excuse of he's a rookie and he kind of misjudged Sami Zayn. He could come back again. That's not Gunther's character, for him to really not take an opponent lightly. And then, especially a match of this importance, just not what he would do. I think that he would win, and in Berlin, there'd either be a Priest matchup or another babyface, maybe Jey Uso, maybe Sami Zayn, who's no longer the Intercontinental Champion, as I beat you for the IC title, I beat you for the world title, perhaps.
I can see that.
Challenger more than Gunther winning it again. I just don't think it fits his character. And I think, honestly, we need the Judgment Day either break up or whatever they're doing. And I think that Priest not having the title will lead that forward more than him defending it against someone else.
I like Gunther getting a clean win, speaking of Judgment Day, over Finn Balor with a sleeper. I don't think they should have hedged on that, and they turned it in, just parlayed it into a Gunther getting heel heat for putting reapplying the sleeper on Balor afterwards, and then that prompting Priest to come out. I don't think Balor will have any issue with Priest running out. Balor made a big deal out of, I want to do this alone. Priest respected that. He didn't come out until after the match was over. So I don't think that'll be a point of contention. But I agree with you that Gunther beating Priest makes sense if we look at the rhythm of the storyline with the Judgment Day. It does feel like, even they said, let's take care of business at SummerSlam, and then we'll take care of in-house business starting next Monday afterwards. And I think people are ready to turn the page and have Priest deal with whatever's going on at Judgment Day. We'll probably have a pretty significant angle with Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley to play for Priest to play off of afterwards, and that will grab his attention. And I think it shouldn't be the driving force in a decision, but I think having Gunther win the world title at SummerSlam has some value to it historically. You not only for Gunther's starting his reign at a major event like that, but also to have SummerSlam be the site in that stadium setting of that kind of having what could be a historically significant reign begin. And I think you want to prop up your brand or elevate your brand by having historically significant things happen on these big shows. So I think it's the right decision to have Gunther win, but if he doesn't, they certainly have a reason in mind for it. He'd probably get a rematch against Priest, but having a relatively quick turnaround to have somebody else challenge him is a bit of a challenge to justify. And having Sami lose a title only to then get a title shot at a more prestigious title right afterwards, he'd have to win some sort of qualifying match, which they can do on TV to justify it. So I could see that all play out. Anything more you want to add on the stakes in the context of the world title match at SummerSlam?
Nothing really, other than the fact that they've done a good job making a match that I think a lot of people weren't interested in interesting.
So I want to ask about Priest's character separate from the match, although it's hard to divorce him from it. But the vignettes, his demeanor with his crew, the Judgment Day crew, and his body language, being a stand-up guy, his vignettes increasingly have eased him into a clear-cut babyface role. It's just sort of, I don't know if it's not really sneaking up on us. It just sort of built brick by brick by brick, and now he's there. He's a babyface against Gunther. How do you feel about him going forward post-title reign? And let's assume that it's post-title reign starting after SummerSlam. Where does he go? Is it just as a babyface in a storyline with Judgment Day, and whatever plays out, and he maybe feuds with somebody from Judgment Day if they break up? Does he keep momentum? And can he actually end up a bigger name than he was before his title reign? Or is there going to be a big drop-off once he loses a title?
I think he can, depending on the booking. I think one of the problems with Money in the Bank is that when you're the Money in the Bank champion, you kind of start off with an asterisk because you didn't really beat anyone in a fair context. You kind of took advantage of a situation. I think him having it for so long, he was put in that place. And I think he's actually been a lot better of a champion, more than kind of a placeholder than maybe people thought he would be. I think his character development will allow him to be a good babyface against, Judgment Day as heels start off with, and then maybe go off into someone else. But I think if you put him against solid heels, not tweeners, not babyfaces, not people you question whether you should cheer for him, I think he's shown a lot of range in this character, and he could go maybe a little bit further, even if he does lose the title on Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment of things. Okay, well, let's pause and introduce the show, introduce ourselves, let people know how they can participate in the show, and then we'll move to our next topic, which will be that opening segment in the hype for perhaps the match that most people are anticipating the most, Drew McIntyre and with Seth Rollins Drew McIntyre against CM Punk with Seth Rollins as special referee. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Monday, July 29th, 2024. I am Wade Keller, editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter and the website PWTorch.com. I also host the Wade Keller Post Shows. They stream live on YouTube at youtube.com/PWTorch. You can also download the shows on our podcast feed. Search Wade Keller on your podcast app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever iOS or Android app you use. You can also stream them directly from our website at pwtorch.com. Search Wade Keller to subscribe in a podcast app. You'll see the red logo pop up. That's our post shows. Subscribe to that. You'll see a blue logo pop up also. That's a completely separate feed with different shows, including our weekly flagship. Tomorrow, Greg Park's scheduled to join me as co-host. You can start sending in your questions and topic suggestions to that show. The email address is on the screen at this moment. I am Wade Keller, as I mentioned, and the other voice you hear is Chris Maitland. He is a PWTorch podcaster and contributor. Chris, welcome back to the co-host chair.
Thanks for having me, Wade.
Tell people about the show that you do every week on the PWTorch Daily Cast lineup, which, by the way, people can subscribe to for free by searching PWTorch on your podcast app.
Sure. I host Wrestling Coast to Coast with my friend of almost 25 years in September, Justin McClelland. We went to college together at University of Pittsburgh, and now we're talking about wrestling. Another one of our 25-year friends is Rich Fan, who hosts everything with Rich and Wade. So sorry for the pit involvement here. But our Torch Daily Cast really talks about independent wrestling. We do a different show every week, go over kind of what we like, what we don't like, kind of trends we're seeing that may pop up in the industry. People from WWE or AEW maybe returning to the indies. The show that we're going to be doing this week, which is on Wednesday, the show's come out on Wednesdays, is Black Label Pro Old Habits Die Screaming, which includes the independent return of Trevor Lee, formerly Cameron Grimes, from WWE, and Raj Desi, formerly Jinder Mahal, is in the main event of that show. So we talk about different independents, pretty much everything but AEW and WWE, and we talk every week about what we like, and give us again a listen on Wednesdays on the PWTorch. If you search PWTorch in your podcast app, you can find us, Wrestling Coast to Coast.
That is great. So everybody do that. Take a moment to subscribe to the PWTorch Daily Cast if you haven't yet. You can also email us right now if you're live streaming our show, or for future post shows, you can email us during Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. You can also join us in the chat room if you stream us live on YouTube. You can also join us live on our live stream as a video caller if you are a VIP member or a Patreon supporter. You can find a link that will bring you into the waiting room to be a video caller. You can turn your camera off too if you prefer to just be an audio caller. That's certainly fine too. We've had a number of people do that. So go ahead and look for that code. If you're a VIP member, it's in my TV reports on the website, pwtorchvip.com. At the top and bottom, you'll find that link. And on our Patreon page, I also post that link on our Patreon feed. All right, so let's get to topic B, which is the opening segment with CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, the hype for their match with Seth Rollins as special referee. Chris, you look like you're ready to go. I'm going to throw to you for your thoughts on that segment, and then once we're done with this, we'll get to our video callers. We have a number of people in the waiting room.
I like the general idea of them having them together conversing. I've struggled with WWE since they started doing these 20-minute promos. I don't know how many years ago that was, even 4 hours, 3 hours, where people cannot fight each other. And this was an example of, if you're going to have this promo, they need to be in separate rooms or at least have 25 guards or something. It seemed to be that these two gentlemen who've had this much animosity, who've traveled around the world to attack each other, wouldn't suddenly, and not follow rules and get suspended and attack referees and attack Adam Pearce, would be like, okay, well, we're fighting on Saturday, so we're just going to just trade insults 3 feet from each other and not actually touch each other when we've done all these other heinous things to each other. It doesn't make sense. And sort of the Seth Rollins interaction was a bit, went on a bit too long. I mean, I didn't time the segment. I'm guessing it was probably 15, 20 minutes. If it was cut in half, I think it would have been fine. Get a few points in and out. Because to me, I think the last time I co-hosted this with you, Wade, the whole CM Punk, Drew has the bracelet with his wife's name and his dog's name on it, and that could get someone to maybe go out of control. For him to all of a sudden have self-control, especially in the promo where he said, I'm going outside to control myself, but now I have self-control. It didn't fit their characters, what they've been doing. I don't think it'll hurt the match overall. I just don't think this was the best idea for promoting their match at SummerSlam.
I'm with you. I wrote in my TV report at pwtorch.com that I think the anticipation for this match, the hype for this match, peaked a while back. I think once the bell rings, it's going to be really good. and the crowd is going to be very into it. But the tension peaked, and I'm totally with you on putting those three in the ring. I know the temptation is, you've got 3 hours to fill, and you want to have your stars there. It's arguably the biggest match on the show, and arguably because some people might, see Cody's match or Priest or Rhea and Liv, all contenders. But you want them in the ring when you can. But I actually think this hurt CM Punk the most. I'm not saying it's sabotage, but I'm saying it resembles sabotage of his character. He bails out of the ring again. I mean, this goes back to him showing up in the luxury suite and then not, like avoiding Drew and playing games like that when he didn't have to. Then it was sort of like, you can't get your hands on me. But for Punk to jump out of the ring and then come back in the ring and kind of be like subservient to Seth, who has the power of a referee. And I know both Punk and Drew want this match, and the threat was if they touch each other or touch Seth, the match won't happen. It still makes Punk look like, okay, I don't want to jeopardize SummerSlam's main event because I'm part of this business now, and I need to be an attraction who doesn't ruin a top match. But that's not Punk's character. Punk, it's like Drew's calling him corporate Punk. He's taunting him with it. He's not, Punk isn't this rebellious anti-corporate Punk anymore. And then to end with Drew holding up the bracelet in Punk's face. It's Punk's. And Punk didn't even grab it. Like, because I might, graze Drew's hand and thus the match will be off. Like, he can just grab the damn bracelet and make Drew give, I don't know. I just, for as much as Punk has said that bracelet is important to him, for him to just stand there and not take it back, I thought made him look weak. And I'll add to this. And Joel Donnell, who was in attendance, dropped me a line on this too and said he thought he thought that it was a case. The crowd wasn't mega into CM Punk. He's over. I mean, he's very over. But he paused for a long time in the middle of that promo and kind of looked at the crowd. And like if he was a presidential candidate, he'd have to drop out because it looked like he just froze. But what he was really doing is waiting for a CM Punk chant to start organically, and it didn't. And then he had to create it. I don't know what he said, I go city to city and everyone chants my name. And then they chanted his name briefly. It feels like even I think Punk's popularity is being hurt. I mean, St. Paul's not that far from Chicago, but it's not Chicago. But outside of Chicago, the way that they're booking Punk, I think they're hurting his brand. I think I don't know if they're testing him or they just don't know how to protect his character or what, but Punk just wants to get along and do what he's told and not create waves. But if I'm Punk, if I'm an advocate for Punk, I'm kind of complaining about some of the stuff that they're doing, and I enter into evidence the fact that the CM Punk chants tonight were not that strong. Joel Donnell said Jey Uso had a bigger pop. There were so many things about Punk's presentation that feels desperate and self-indulgent. He's not the cool kid in the back of the classroom. That was Joel's take on it from being in the building. So, Chris, I added a decent amount to that. Is there anything you disagree with or anything you want to add to regarding what I just talked about?
No, I think the thing that I noticed was that even though CM Punk was over with the crowd, and I can't remember the exact statement Drew said, it may have been corporate, may have been something else, but the crowd kind of cheered what Drew said, and I was kind of like, well, that's not good. He's not supposed to be, the heel's not supposed to make these comments that the fans go, yeah, actually, I agree. Actually, you're making some sense there. I think that the problem with this whole match, and maybe it's because of his injuries, that they didn't know when it was going to happen. So sometimes it's just better for people to not be on TV and not be around and maybe 3-4 weeks heated up. But because they start and stopped, and was he cleared? Was he going to be cleared? We're going to add Seth to it. It kind of leads to these moments. But I also think, to be honest, if they did on the show other, Liv and Rhea had taped interviews. Damian Priest and Gunther had taped interviews. Why didn't they do that with CM Punk, Seth, and Drew? 3 taped interviews, air one each hour. I know you don't have your 15-minute segment. That's probably why they had to do that. They don't have to be near each other. They don't have to be confronting each other. And you get probably more bang for your buck than what you did with them standing out there being awkward. And I think that would have been a much better decision if they had just had their 3 separate promos and just aired them throughout the show.
Yeah. And I mean, if Raw was 2 hours, they might have done that. I feel like they're just like, we got 3 hours. We got, they claimed 13,000 in the building, maybe closer to 12 in terms of how many fans were there. But very good crowd at XL Energy Center in downtown St. Paul. I think they just wanted to have Punk and Drew in front of the fans, but the negatives that you've laid out so well, Chris, were there. And yeah, just to have them stand there dutifully apart and not have tons of security, or I don't know. Yeah, there were certainly some drawbacks and negatives based on the choice they made. Some interesting comments in the chat. We have Jeff Gunyan, who says Punk had the Jeb Bush please clap vibe. I think that's right. I think that's an apt comparison. Bourne's Legacy said I was gone for 10 years and they were still chanting my name. That's what Punk said to get the crowd to chant his name after that long, awkward pause where he just froze. I mean, it's almost like Punk was just like stubbornly going, I'm going to wait until you fans figure out what we're looking for. Your cue was to chant my name, and I'm just going to wait. And then it didn't happen, and he finally had to say something to prompt it. And I mean, the line he used was pretty good. Wasn't overt begging, but it was clearly meant to prompt the fans chanting for him. Sophia Dash says, I also think fans are just starting to like Drew more than Punk. I've said that for feels like months now, that Drew has been more witty. He hasn't done a lot that would make you hate him. I mean, there's certain things, if people bought into this as real, that you would resent him for, but there's things Punk has done that I think were at a risk of backfire, including ruining world title matches. So I think we're seeing a combination of a long drawn out delay in this match happening and some choices that have cost Punk some momentum, but part of it is just how popular Drew is. Bourne's Legacy said Drew is just so good. Scott TPA in the chat says Drew is not a heel, at least to me, and certainly not as much as Punk has come across. And then Jason Dorsey says, also adding Seth into this, who was the only real clean-cut babyface, might have muddied it a bit. Punk is still the face very much, but his reactions were louder a month ago. And I'll read one more from Derek Hubbard. Here he goes. My favorite part of the promo was when Drew tried to appeal to Seth to win him over and favor him over Punk. It was a weasel heel move. The rest of the promo was fine, just unremarkable. Chris, anything you want to add in reaction to what the chat room had said about this?
No, I think the issue with this feud has been that CM Punk, he attacked Drew. I mean, the WrestleMania was kind of funny because Drew kind of taunted him, and it's kind of like, well, Drew, you deserve to lose the title. But CM Punk attacking him multiple times kind of gave sympathy to Drew, whereas, like, again, with the Money in the Bank thing, it's like people cash in Money in the Bank when someone's injured. Drew decided to, he told people what he was going to do, almost not exactly a baby face, but more than a lot of other people do. And it just seems like CM Punk is being vindictive.
Yep.
So they need to make it really clear who the face and heels are. But I think this feud's going to be going on for much longer than SummerSlam. So hopefully they are able to have a good pivot after Saturday.
I think it is a good point, though, that Jason Dorsey made, which is adding Seth to the mix, I think peels off some of Punk's support. Seth is a loyal WWE guy, and he's been around. And, as Cole pointed out, Punk hasn't had a one-on-one singles match in WWE for 10 and a half years. And he's coming out of controversy in AEW. You needed not a perfect storyline, but a storyline that didn't put Punk in a position where he's screwing over Drew in a way that feels excessive. Now, some would argue Drew attacked Punk after the Royal Rumble, exacerbated his injury storyline wise. And so Punk is justified. And certainly Punk isn't being booed. He's not being rejected. He's still popular. It's just not at the level it should be at. So a number of things have not gone his way, and adding Seth to the mix of special ref when Seth is so popular, I think has hurt more than it helped. All right, we have a super chat from Bourne's Legacy. Thank you, Bourne's Legacy, for this. He moves right to the front of the line here with his comment. Can we address Punk's hair being back to normal? The weird hair blowing. I don't even know how to describe what we saw last week with Punk's hair. People were wondering if he had a hair weave or a hair piece, and it just, it was like John Hamm or something like that. And now it's back to being slicked back. Chris, any theory on what was going on last week with Punk's hair?
Maybe this is just his really optimized his training this week, and that's the last part of what we needed to do. I mean, some people run and lift weights. He just makes sure his hair's in the right place because now he's about to wrestle.
Yep. All right. So JC Scooby says Seth Rollins is not needed in this Punk Drew match. And Danny Tuccido says, my problem was that the segment in storyline existed for Seth to reveal the rules, talking about tonight's segment. But then the reveal is that the rules are basically Seth is a ref. That's it. We didn't need 15 minutes for that. I'll defend it slightly in the sense that Seth said, I am the referee and I have the parameters to maybe do countouts, maybe not. Maybe I'll call for a DQ. Maybe I'll let things go. I decide when to count to 3. He basically said he's not going to have to follow traditional guidelines that a referee does. And so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. By the way, JC Scooby says, your obsession with Punk's hair, Wade. I didn't do a super chat. Somebody paid money to bring that up on this show. I was not necessarily going to bring it up. I did in my report, I will say. I said his hair was back to normal, but I would call it an obsession. I was certainly not alone in observing that last week, JC. Cool. Okay. Let's I was going to see if there's any other chats. Let's go to our video callers here, and we're going to start with Creighton Raps up first. Creighton, giving you just a second to know you're about to be brought on. And here we are. Creighton, good to see you again. How's it going?
Hey, happy Monday, Wade.
Thank you.
First of all, I got to agree with you. I don't know. I mean, I know obviously Seth has some heat with both guys, but it just feels like Punk Drew would have been better if it was just, if they didn't try and push a figure way to get Seth Rollins in there. I mean, at first I was fired up about it, but now it's like, okay, why don't maybe they're just trying to find something for Seth in the interim now that his feud with Damien's kind of on hold. And I know, yeah, that was kind of because Punk kind of, between Punk and Drew, that kind of messed things up there. But I think right now, I mean, I would have been just fine if it was just one-on-one, leave Seth out of it and work him in later.
So this is one of those situations where I'm tempted to agree with you, but I want to see what they have in mind Saturday. You know,
Right.
Is there a good reason for it? The idea that referees didn't want to have anything to do with Drew and Punk is enough of a story to, you know, I mean, they covered it. They actually addressed it. We could be complaining they didn't address it. And I don't know, I think it was Cole maybe who said, you know, referees didn't want anything to do with this match, or maybe Seth just said, I can't remember, but somebody brought that up, that referees didn't want anything to do with these two fighting each other. It's too out of hand. And Seth is the only one who can handle it. So at least there's a storyline reason for it, but there is a drawback to it. Now, Seth is a key figure in this, and it takes a focus away from a one-on-one mega grudge match and adds this other element to it. I wouldn't say it's overshadowing it, but it's certainly a significant factor. Is Seth going to take sides? I mean, he called them both bums or whatever. I mean, doesn't seem like he's favoring either of them. He's making it pretty clear he doesn't like both of them. But it does take away from it just being a pure grudge match, and certainly regular referees are almost always the referees for grudge matches. Chris, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, good question, Creighton. I was thinking, did the referees ever not want to wrestle Roman Reigns, referee Roman Reigns matches? I feel like every Bloodline match that he had a ref bump, and none of them seem to ever want to not referee those. I think they had to be very careful with this, and you know, maybe if CM Punk was clear, they could have had a match that it broke down and the referees, you know, got injured or something, and none of them wanted to do, and Seth Rollins maybe volunteered. But I think, Creighton, I kind of agree with your point. It is sort of like jammed in here because they haven't had their first single match, and it's kind of an odd thing. Well, now the referees don't want to do it, and he volunteered, which is like, why wouldn't you volunteer? Like, why would you want to have a match to get back towards the title or something like that? But
and for some reason, I thought Adam Pearce was the one who brought that point up about the refs, as far as the storyline.
Oh, yeah.
I could be mistaken.
I almost said that it was him, but I wasn't sure. But either way, yeah. Creighton, what else?
I think about Braun Breaker. I'm really starting to get into his character. I know he's coming off as a heel, so like from a storyline perspective, he's easy to root against. But just from, I'm really starting to go into his character. But with that in mind, someone on another channel had brought up the suggestion that at some point, maybe have Paul Heyman kind of serve as his advocate or whatever. Because I know in the ring, Braun is great, but I know his promos, they're getting there. But I think maybe having Paul kind of riding shotgun for a little bit might actually help, because I think the argument that was made on that channel was, well, Heyman kind of played a role in Braun's development down in NXT. What are your thoughts on that down the road?
I don't think I strongly feel like the timing could not be any more obviously wrong for Paul Heyman to get involved in Braun Breaker's career. He's got his own storyline. I mean, I just think that's kind of, no offense, but crazy naive to say, hey, Heyman should go over and help Braun with promos right now. I mean, he is in the middle of the biggest story arc in WWE history. And first, I mean, it's a good suggestion if he had nothing else going on, but like it
wasn't my suggestion. Just
and I'm not
Sure,
coming
absolutely.
after you. You made it clear it was this other channel, and people shouldn't watch that channel if they want good insight. No, should be. I don't know who you're talking about. I'm egging it on. But no, I'll be blunt. I think it's a terribly naive suggestion to think that Heyman should get involved in something other than the story arc he's involved in right now with the Bloodline for the sake of an Intercontinental title level wrestler. That said, Heyman, and I think there's a good chance Heyman manages Braun Breaker someday. I mean, I do. I think it's a real natural fit. And to be more kind and generous, I understand why that would cross someone's mind and they'd bring that up. And Braun is on the rise, but the timing is so clearly not right for that to happen now. And I don't think Braun is doing all that poorly on the mic. Sophia Dash said Braun's promo tonight ruled. Chris, what do you think about an eventual pairing with Paul and Braun? Paul has told people he's nowhere near retirement, nowhere near done. The Hall of Fame does not mean he's winding down. The Bloodline is not his final chapter. So if that's the case, and I've heard that's what he's telling people, to me, Braun Breaker is a natural person for him to eventually manage. I'd much rather see that than another stint with Brock Lesnar, for instance. But that means probably turning on a babyface Roman Reigns at some point and siding with Braun, or Reigns retires and then there's a gap and then Heyman shows up with a new recruit. What do you think about that pairing, Chris?
Yeah, I think the real question is, at the time that the Bloodline feud is over or Roman Reigns is gone, where is Braun Breaker as a promo? I think what he did today was really good, and I think that what WWE needs to do is have him in these situations where he talks briefly, and you can get a lot out of him as they did today. I think that they need to spend the time with him developing. Maybe he won't need Paul Heyman in 2 years, because he's developed over those 2 years to be a credible promo. And his character, again, it still wrecks my mind they don't call him Steiner, but I guess they don't. You know, I just think about like my parents who know the Steiners would look at him differently. They knew that was Rick Steiner's son and Scott Steiner's nephew. But I think he's doing a really good job in his character, slow but steady. And I think that he may not need Paul Heyman by the time that Paul Heyman is ready to manage him or anyone else away from the Bloodline.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good scenario.
I'm sorry. Speaking of promos, I mean, Gunther, I don't know if it's going to happen Saturday or if it's going to happen at the next PLE in Berlin, but I got a gut feeling he's going over at some point. He is just, I mean, if you want to talk about promos, just the last couple of weeks, he's just got that ability, and just it's really hard to put in the words, but I think not just his promos, but what he's been doing in ring. Like I said, I would not be shocked if by the end of the month he's carrying the strap, and to that end, maybe we start seeing Seth going after him for Seth's next storyline. Who knows? But I mean, either way, I'm going to be really fired up about Saturday. Unfortunately, I have to work in Houston, so at least I can probably catch a replay on the trip home.
Well, stay off social media then. So
yeah, I will, believe me.
Yeah, it's a good thing to stay off social media, period, every now and then for some stretches of time.
All right, great talking to you guys. Thanks.
Great, and thanks. Always good talking with you. So, yeah, I mean, Gunther's going to be world champion. He's going to be a centerpiece. I'm already imagining way down the line, big WrestleMania main event matches for him, where it's not the B match, it's the A match, and is it after Roman Reigns retires, or is there, I mean, I assume a babyface Roman against heel Gunther is penciled in for like WrestleMania in 2026 or SummerSlam in 2026 or something like that. I mean, that seems to be the trajectory he's on, and the timing is right for him to win the world title, Chris.
Yeah, I agree. I think his character development over the last several years has been really amazing. He's one of the many wrestlers who is, I think, only seen as a good match merchant, and he has good matches and he chops people really hard, which is cool. But his work here in the last several years, first in NXT UK and NXT, and then now in WWE, has been really impressive to the fact that he actually has become someone who still has those good matches, but he actually has a character that you are invested in, now going up against maybe there's some point he may be a babyface, not quite sure. But I think him as a world champion, knocking people down with maybe only someone like of the Roman Reigns level able to avenge him will be a really good storyline if they get to that one day.
All right, let's bring Jason Australia in next as an audio caller. Jason, welcome. Good to hear you on a Monday night. What are your thoughts on Raw tonight?
Yeah, thanks, Wade and Chris. I was listening to what you were talking. I've got a few things to talk about. In relation to the Punk, Drew, and Seth segment, this was an interesting one for me because I can see what both of you were saying, but I look at it a little bit more favorably because I thought they did a good enough job talking about why they can't get their hands on one another. So, and I thought Punk did cover his space when he went outside and said, I'm afraid of what I'm going to do. Having said that, I can see what both of you guys are saying. So that's an interesting one for me. That was an interesting segment. What I thought hurt this segment the most was the hard cutaway at the end where Drew had his hand up to the camera with Punk's bracelet on. And it's like they got the shot that they wanted. Then they did a hard cutaway to the Judgment Day. That, to me, was about 10 seconds too quick. I would have liked to have seen Punk just sort of nodding his head at Drew and saying off mic, it's okay, I'll get you, I'm going to get you, or I'm not only going to take that, I'm going to take your head on Saturday. Like, I wanted to hear something from Punk acknowledging Drew's hand with the bracelet, but they did that hard cutaway because we got the shot we wanted, and I thought that's what hurt it. So, and in relation to Punk not getting the cheers or not getting as many cheers as what you may have thought, sometimes I feel like the crowd, instead of chanting the name, maybe they're just quiet because they're interested in to hear what Punk had to say. So you could tell that Punk was waiting for the chance to come in, but they didn't. But maybe the crowd were just intrigued about what his reply was going to be. The thing that's hurting Punk overall is that he hasn't wrestled. He's only wrestled once in the past, 10 and a half years in WWE. So he calls himself the best of the world and all the rest of it. But the first time he comes back, he gets injured. So that's working against him as far as getting the full-on crowd into him. So there's got to be some people in the audience saying, we respect you, Punk, for everything you've done, but you still haven't, you've only wrestled once in the past 8 months. And as soon as you came back, you got injured. So that's working against him too. So my intrigue in this match is, I really hope that Punk doesn't get injured again. And like I said, I don't have an issue with maybe the crowd siding with Drew because I see this whole thing with Drew, Seth, and Punk sort of similar to early 97 where you had like sort of Austin, Brett, and Sid, and you could sort of pick the person who you wanted to cheer. Now, you don't want every single program to be like this and every single wrestler, but with these three, where it is very personal and you can actually see each other's point of view, I don't mind having this with this feud because to me, it makes it a bit more intriguing.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you, Jason. It's an alternate perspective, but I think this feud I mean, I just think Drew being heel and Punk being a face is better for Punk. I mean, if you're looking out for Punk, and frankly, if you're looking out for Drew, it'd be better for Drew to be 100% or 97% hated and Punk to be 97, 100% cheered. And I just think the nature of the story and the length of it and Seth getting involved, it's chipped away at a scenario that's just, I think, frankly, better. I don't think you want fans split or liking multiple people. You want them to go completely crazy for a star the level of CM Punk having his first singles match back in 10 and a half years. And now it's muddied. Chris, what do you think of what Jason had to say?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of clear heels and baby faces. I make it I talk about it quite a bit on Wrestling Coast to Coast with the shows that we watch. And I think the problem with this feud, not really the problem, but the issue was they haven't been able to get in the ring. And they haven't even been in the ring. I mean, Drew's had a couple matches, obviously with the title, but they haven't even had other matches to take them away from this. They've kind of had to use attacks against each other to further their storyline, and I think that's muddied the waters a bit. And I think one of the good things about the match on Saturday, Seth Rollins' involvement notwithstanding, because this could alter in some ways, is that you can put clear lines of who Drew and Punk are based on how they perform in the ring and not other things, and that'll hopefully put them back on track with who the crowd should and should not be rooting for.
Jason, back to you.
Having said all that, I mean, is the crowd really against? I mean, just because there's 1 week where the crowd is not all cheering CM Punk in one particular moment doesn't mean that they're against him. I mean, like I said, they could have just been intrigued and wanting to hear what he had to say. I think Punk has done a pretty good job for not wrestling since January to keep the crowd on his side. And it's not like, and Drew has been, I mean, Drew's that unique character where he's playing the heel, but he believes he's right. And a lot of the things you could find justification with. I get what you're saying with the clear-cut baby faces and heels, and I agree with that 99% of the time. But we've got that with the other top programs. I mean, clearly, Damian Priest has been positioned as the babyface. Cody Rhodes is the babyface. We're dealing with 3 very intriguing characters with Seth, Punk, and Drew, who all have problems with one another. And now WWE have had to think on their feet because they never got that main event that they were meant to get with Rollins and Punk. So they've had to, I mean, we can't expect them to be perfect in everything they're doing because they're still trying to balance that depending on injuries and depending on things that happen and working people in there. So I look at it as I come out of it with a more sympathetic way. But look, I'm not saying you guys aren't sympathetic because I can see both sides of the argument here. I can see what you're saying, but I also, from my point of view, it's the most intriguing feud. And the fact that they've gotten this much mileage out of it for 8 months and Punk hasn't wrestled for 8 months, I think they've done a really good job. And I'm intrigued to see where they're going after this. I think I'm intrigued to see what happens with the Seth Rollins character. I mean, if we're assuming that Gunther beats Damian Priest, does he go on to face Gunther? Does he get that title shot? Where does he go with Punk, depending on what happens here with Punk? And do we have sort of like a schmoz finish, so to speak, where are we assuming it's going to end up at Bad Blood? Because of all the feuds that deserve to be under the Bad Blood banner, it's definitely this one. So it's intriguing, but I'm not. What I'm saying, Wade, I'm not as down on Punk as what other people might be as far as the reactions and how he's going with his character. I think he's done a very good job maintaining babyface.
And I'm coming to Punk's defense and saying I don't think they're positioning him well. I think he's doing the best he can with the material he's being given, unless he's suggesting, hey, when Drew comes looking for me, I'm going to be in a luxury suite. And when I'm in the ring with Seth and Drew, I'm going to be the first one to jump out of the ring and have an excuse. And it was a good comeback. Drew's like, oh, you're scared of me. And Punk's like, no, I'm scared of what I'm going to do to you. I mean, it's not open and shut sabotage in any way. Am I saying that? I mean, but the physical movement of Punk to avoid being in the vicinity of Drew and saying it's because I can't control myself. I think some people can look at that as, Punk is creating distance. And then again, dangling that damn bracelet in front of his face and Punk just standing there. It's just, the symbolism of him not risking the match and saying, go ahead, cancel the damn match if you insist on it. You're not going to. I know you're not going to. Too much money is on the line. I'm not new in this business. I've been around the block a few times. I'm taking my property back. You decide what you want to do with the match. And then have a frazzled Adam Pearce go, all right, he called our bluff. We're still going to have the match. It wasn't that physical. I mean, I don't know. Just don't put Punk in a position to look like he's willing to play by the corporate rules to not screw up a big box office. That's not Punk's character. And it's repeating it to say, I just think Punk should be a clear-cut babyface, and I think they should have protected him better. And frankly, Drew has been too clever and too likable and too charming and too, funny and effective with his insults. So Punk is doing a good job with some material that I think has put him in a position to have a headwind going his way. But you're right, it's one crowd. I would say I don't think it's been overwhelmingly pro Punk every week either. This wasn't a big exception to the rule, but it stood out more because of that long pause and the fact that the CM Punk chants didn't last that long. And I don't know, just doesn't feel like it's peaking at this time. But I think we've covered it pretty well there. The other point, Chris, that Jason brought up is Seth and what happens with him. We talked about something happening with Seth. What do you think does happen? Do we get a triple threat? Does Seth end up in a Hell in a Cell against one of these two? Do we have our first three-way Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood? Does he split off and go after Gunther after being special referee? I mean, there's a lot of ways this can go, and I don't have a definitive, obvious course that I would bet on.
Yeah, I think a three-way is eventual, leading to, I think, a Seth versus CM Punk feud. I think that was where they were going before he got injured. I also think one of the issues with Punk, this is in my mind, in the back of my mind, I think people are worried, is he going to get injured? And is that part of the reason why he's not being... They
should be.
I don't want to step forward here because I may not make it to Saturday, I may get injured. I think with Seth, I'm not a big fan of Seth Rollins sort of coming to the ring. One minute he's going to be really serious, but he comes to the ring kind of, this is really big joke I have on my interesting outfit of the week, and I'm dancing to the ring but in a minute later I'm going to tell you how I'm the ref and I have all the rules and I'm serious. I think he needs to have a constitution more than I don't like Drew and I don't like Punk, because they have their own thing. So either you're going to fight one of them or it's a three-way, or you're going to go do something else. And hopefully similar, I mean, not exactly how, because no unprotected chair shots to the head, at least not on this show as much. SummerSlam 97, when Undertaker wrestled Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels end up hitting Undertaker with the chair, Bret Hart winning, and that was a way for him to kind of feud with Undertaker and then feud with Bret Hart. I see that Seth Rollins somehow being involved in the finish where he can feud with one of the other and then feud with the other one after the fact.
Jason, anything else you want to bring up?
Yeah, I feel like Seth's hatred for Punk is far more stronger than Drew, because even after their match at WrestleMania, you saw Seth say, like, you deserve this or whatever. I feel like they've kind of manufactured some hatred for Seth and Drew when it's clearly Seth and Punk have the issue. So that to me is going to be the interesting feud coming out of this, and whether Seth turns heel, or if we have a definitive heel turn and they keep Punk face. But just a couple of other things. I think they've done in the past 2 weeks, I think they've done a really good job with contrasting Damian Priest to Gunther. And I can definitely see Gunther defeating Priest. And I don't think that's going to hurt Priest. Depending on how he has the match, I think he can get over losing, and Gunther can win the championship, and Priest can come out stronger by not giving up and showing that kind of street cred toughness. My thing is that I like the idea of Gunther going to his home continent as the champion. I've always liked that better, that the hometown wrestler is coming in as champion rather than going for the championship. I mean, I saw it firsthand here earlier this year at Elimination Chamber when Rhea Ripley, as the defending champion, returned to her country. And I just think that's more of a better strategic branding, trying to get casual people interested. Oh, I didn't realize that we've actually got someone from our continent or country that's the champion. I like that branding. So if Gunther can go there at Bash at Berlin as the champion and then face whoever, I like that. As far as Braun Breaker is concerned, I like his character as it is, because last month Corey Graves said, and I know it's a bit of a throwaway line, but I think it works here, that Braun Breaker is kind of like as if AI developed a wrestler. And what I'm noticing with his character is he's very cerebral. So it's not like he's just going out there doing anything without a purpose. He is adjusting to what's happening to him, and he's taking in information and being like, well, that's okay. I'm just going to adjust and I'm going to evolve. With what he said about Sammy, he goes, I understood I might have taken him a bit lightly, and he's got his other career. So I like this character. This is not just a one-dimensional monster type. This is someone who's thinking about what he's doing, and that makes him even more dangerous. And when we think about AI, it's always evolving and it's getting better. So he is that AI type of wrestler. So I actually don't think he needs a manager. I think his character is showing that he can manage himself, which just makes him more dangerous. So I like that from his point of view. And one final note, I think coming out of all this, as far as the women's match is concerned with Rhea and Liv, I clearly think it's too early for Rhea to win the championship back. I think they've got more juice in this. Where I think it's heading, like most people have said, I just go back to, something that happened a couple of months ago where we saw Liv with Finn Balor. I think Finn and Jason Powell brought this up on the flagship. I definitely think he's got something to do with it. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how they branch off the Judgment Day, because I can definitely see a split, because even today in the vignettes, backstage, you saw Rhea standing right next to Damian as if to point them two together, and the other rest of the Judgment Day are by themselves. So I think that's where they're definitely heading with that.
Chris, I'll throw to you to respond to anything Jason brought up there, Braun Breaker or his last point.
Yeah, I think Braun Breaker has a bright future. I mean, he hasn't been wrestling for that long. I feel like he was playing college football like 5 years ago, maybe. So the fact that he's already at this level, I think is a good sign for him. In a different world where there were more managers, you wouldn't need just one manager to manage him, but that's not the world we are in WWE today.
Yeah.
I think the Judgment Day, when they're together now, they're like, okay, this group is too big and they need to be split. I'm hoping that no matter which way it goes on SummerSlam, they are having a feud. My only thought process was, and I don't know if Roman Reigns is supposed to come back at SummerSlam or not, but I don't know if they want to have two former factions exploding feuds at the same time, the Bloodline feuding and then Judgment Day feuding. So I don't know if that would enter in their thinking, but I think that they really need to get to the point with the Judgment Day where they need to get some sort of separation, because all the parts don't fit. With Rhea coming back really shows that.
Do you have a prediction on who ends up with whom? Liv and Rhea and Dom and Finn thrown in there. And I mean, is it obvious to you, or are you not sure? Do you have a leaning?
I would say I'm leaning with Liv going with Dom, though I'm not 100% on that, but I think that seems to make the most sense. I mean, to me, Finn, he's trying to break up the Judgment Day by getting choked out by Gunther. I mean, I don't know why he would want to do that if he was, wanting Priest to lose.
They've lightened up on the hints of Finn and Liv having a thing. That was like a little teaser for 2-3 weeks in a row, and it's been not very, if anything, subtle last week and nothing this week, I don't think. But I could totally see Liv putting on a show and Dom putting on a show, and they're going to turn on Rhea. And I don't think they've done anything that would make that feel like disqualifyingly stupid or, a twist that doesn't make sense. It just would be an execution of a master plan at this point. Jason, appreciate the call, as always.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
You
Thank
bet.
you.
All right, we'll move to the heel Mark as our next video caller here. Oh, let me get a super chat in, and Mark will get to you in about 10 seconds here. Sophia Dash says in a super chat, cheers to Wade. My brother grew up listening to you on a speaker in the house. Glad to catch you now. Question, what main events SummerSlam? Is there a chance Liv and Rhea can headline SummerSlam? The soap opera has been such a dominant issue. Rhea is arguably the most popular wrestler in WWE, arguably, because there's plenty of candidates for that. But I mean, I don't think there's a clear-cut men's main event. Drew and Punk should be. If a title was on the line, it would be. But I don't think they're going to not end with a world title match. So I think it's probably Cody. But again, I just don't think they've done enough to make that obviously so, unless Roman is returning. And I think they've done enough with Gunther and Priest. They could give a nod to the newer World Heavyweight title and put that on last. So what do you think, Chris? Sophia wants to know what main events SummerSlam, what concludes the show?
I think it will be Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa, even if Roman does not come back, because I just don't think they want. I think WWE wants the conversation that title was secondary to the world title, even though I know they're the same title and they're technically equal. I don't think they want that conversation. So that's why I think that Cody versus Solo will be the main event.
If you don't mind
You're muted.
Hey, what's
Mark,
up,
welcome.
guys?
How you doing, Mark? Good to hear from you.
I am doing well. I am well rested. Can you see which match I'm waiting for at SummerSlam?
That's Bailey.
Is that Bailey you're pointing at?
This is all my dude. Like I am such a dude. Ever since she debuted, man, I got my Bailey stuff all over the place. Anywho, such a great Raw. Such a great Raw. But I know everybody is talking about the opening segment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I want to talk about something that everyone's probably going to be like, oh, God. I want to talk about Joe Gacy taking off his mask. Let's talk about Dexter Lumis has dreads. I mean, come on.
We're talking about CM Punk's hair, and we're bearing the lead. It's not about Punk's hair.
I mean, Dexter Lumis has dreads. You're worrying about CM Punk's hair. When did Dexter Lumis all of a sudden get dreads?
That is a very good question. I thought the same thing. I was like, I looked at it twice. I'm like, is that him? Or is that someone else that I missed? I actually looked up Wyatt 6 on Wikipedia to be like, is there someone new that I wasn't aware? I've never seen him like that for the many years she's been wrestling.
And then as soon as Joe Gacy took off his mask, I literally said it in our group chat. I had a wrestling mark-out-gasm. It's a coined out phrase by me. Wrestling mark-out-gasm.
Yeah, we got it. We got it the first time.
Hang on. I got to give a shout out to Logan Paul, man, ever since, man.
All right.
So, but what do you guys think? I mean, honestly, I really think that with as much as they've done with the Wyatt 6, I really feel like we should have Chad Gable and Bo at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
I really feel like it should, but instead we're getting this 3-on-3 match on Raw next week. Is that going to lead up to the match at SummerSlam, maybe?
Well, we can't because SummerSlam is before Raw. So the order. Yeah. So I'll jump in. I was thinking they would do the 6-man at SummerSlam, but I'm not sad that they're not because I think they're going to keep SummerSlam at the length that they've been doing with PLEs and not bloat it. We talked about this last week on the podcast. I think it makes sense to have matches people want to see that you save for TV. I think Tony Khan should do this in AEW. You've got a lot of matches, too many to fit in a 3.5 hour PLE or pay-per-view window. So put some of those matches on TV. They make a ton of money off of TV rights fees. The Wyatt 6 wrestling on Raw next week is a good way to build momentum coming out of SummerSlam. I think that's smart. Bo obviously wrestling a singles match against Chad Gable. It seems like that's where they're heading at some point, Chris. That could be on the Berlin pay-per-view, could be later, could be on another week of Raw. What do you think of one, the reveal of the Wyatt 6 as Mark brought up, and then also the decision to put the first 6-man match with the Wyatt 6 on TV and not PLE?
Yeah, pay-per-views have changed, or I guess PLEs now, because they're not even called pay-per-views anymore, have changed from the standpoint that they used to be core of the end of feuds or the beginning, and now they actually can be placeholders or in the middle. I think one of the reasons why they announced it is that I don't think they want. I'm assuming the Wyatt 6 are not going to be on SummerSlam, and therefore they wanted it very clear that they're going to be. Don't expect them on SummerSlam. They're going to be on the Raw afterwards, and I think this will allow that match that could very easily be lost in the shuffle on a 8-9 match card to have its own kind of special moment on a show that's probably going to have mostly promos based on the results of SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And I think it will lead. My guess is that it will probably lead to another or a Chad Gable, Bo Dallas match probably on Raw either the week or perhaps 2 weeks after.
All right, Mark, back to you.
All right. Another thing I really want to talk about is I am a big fan of Kacy Catanzaro. I don't like the name change. I'm still going to call her Kacy Catanzaro. Even though she's, from what I'm told, she's the one that actually picked the name change. If I read it correctly, I don't know. But anyway, I don't know what they're doing with them. And to me, it's really disappointing. And honestly, teaming him up with Becky Lynch 2.0, I clearly could tell I'm not a fan of Lyra. I think she's another Becky Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, do you honestly think with having the party gals, is what they're calling them,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, will they ever do anything with them? Because clearly they're talented, because they wouldn't have put tag team titles on them twice. But do you think like the tag team women's division is just like on life support?
I don't know that it's in a different spot than it usually is. I mean, it's a lower mid card championship. I don't think holding the tag belt should be read into as endorsing them. Chris, what do you think about the gimmick for them and their trajectory, their names, all the stuff that Mark brought up?
I just think they're in a tough spot. The women don't get as much character development as the men, with a few exceptions, maybe the women that are more prominently pushed. So the group like this, which really this feud is more, they were kind of the placeholder until Damage Control came back. They weren't really even a major part of this feud. They were just, we need you to put over. I don't know if the heel group even has an official name other than they're just together. We need you to put them over so that when Damage Control returns, that you're standing tall in the ring against them.
Yeah.
I don't really,
Yeah.
I really think that it's kind of hard, especially a week before or the show before a pay-per-view, for them to get character development in a way that they need to progress in the way Mark is talking about. And I hope that they find ways to progress storylines outside of, just the one or two women's matches. They don't really, I mean, the show really didn't have any, I guess they had Zelina Vega get attacked by the heel group, and then they had obviously the promos from Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, but those were the only women's segments along with that match, which is also put in the very difficult 10:25 spot,
Mm-hmm.
which is always a difficult time. So I think they're very talented, but I think they need character development and they need time put in them to get that character development.
All right, Mark, anything else quick? We've got our on-site correspondent and a couple
No. That's all I wanted to say, man, dude. Thank you so much for letting me come on again, man.
Awesome.
Thank you for everything you guys do, man.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate the kind words.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. So we have Root Dog on deck, but we're going to bring Mike in, who attended the show tonight in St. Paul. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Bless you.
Hi. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have all kinds of health issues. So I went there with my mom. That was her first show. She's 70.
Oh, wow.
And we got hard cam seats last minute, so we were able to go. Did you end up going? I haven't heard.
No, I would have had to leave an hour before it ended in order to do the post show promptly.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, they're having another show on December 6th for SmackDown. So
cool.
That's at Target Center though. So,
yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
I thought the show
cross the river.
How do you want me to start?
Oh yeah, so sounds like, well, first of all, Joel Donnell, who attended, he just messaged me. He said there's a lot more women here than other shows. It feels like a mainstream crowd you'd see at an NBA game, different demographic and clientele than you'd see at an AEW show. And you bring in your 70-year-old mom as part of it. So I want to ask you, what did she think of the show? What stood out to her? And I mean, was there any drawback? I mean, 70 years old going to a raucous WWE show is not a typical demographic. So tell me what she thought.
She's Minnesota born for life and everything. She used to be a fan of wrestling back in the day and everything, but she's never gone to a show. But she's known AWA, she knows Road Warriors and all those people, and she just watches it at home. And she's a big CM Punk fan, and she's a big Cody Rhodes fan. She doesn't know. All right, so she doesn't really like the women wrestlers so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't know what it is, but like Rhea and stuff like that, she just doesn't get it, I guess. But when they did the very beginning thing, the Seth Rollins, Drew everything. She
Yeah.
was super into it. Like she was cheering, chanting, and doing all the claps and everything.
That's great.
And you were saying one of the other people was saying there's a lot of women there. There
Yeah.
was. I was super surprised. There was a lot of young
Yeah.
girls there, and I was talking to somebody in my row, and he brought his two young. They look like twin girls. They're pretty
Mhm.
young, 6, 7 maybe. They were
Mhm.
very scared during the Wyatt 6 thing, so they did
Oh,
not
wow.
want to look. So I thought
Yeah.
that was interesting. I wasn't expecting that. I guess I should have, since I think
Hmm.
the music and everything kind of scared them. But he
Mhm.
says no, they get really scared during that stuff. So um, I was sort of chatting to them during it to try to,
Yeah.
you know, calm them down a little. They weren't like
That's nice.
screaming or anything, but you could tell that like they were, they didn't like it. They were spooked out. So that was something I wasn't expecting. So
Tell me about the crowd reaction for CM Punk in the building. We've had a lot of talk about that dead spot where CM Punk paused for this 5-10 seconds, like he was waiting for a
oh
chant, and then he got up
yeah.
chants. Like, and talk about the reaction for him. How many cheers did Drew get, and how popular was Seth compared to Punk?
Oh man, I think maybe Seth was more popular.
Yeah.
I did see a lot of like signs that were like not pro CM Punk signs, like cry, not cry me a river stuff, but like stuff about like
Mm,
CM Punk tears and like stuff like that, where it was, you could tell like Punk fears Drew or something like that,
right.
those type of things. So I was just not expecting so much of that, since we're not super close to Chicago, but we're not like the furthest away. And
Yeah.
there was people, I think, from Chicago there. There was like that one guy that you saw that always wears a ref outfit that goes to like seems like every single CM Punk show.
Uh
He was
huh.
in that corner at the entrance. He was there. So I was really surprised when he did that thing, and what you were talking about, the 5 second, nobody was
Yeah.
saying anything. I think people weren't sure if they didn't want to interrupt. I think that's the
Right. Yeah.
thing, like, because
Yeah.
Minnesota nice people, they try not
Yep.
to be like,
I
"Oh,
can see that.
coach, I'm sorry," and everything like that. They probably thought they were interrupting the talking. That's my guess. That was like my
Yeah.
first thing. They were trying to be on their best behavior, whereas maybe like other people, like New York people, are like, this is our time. I don't want to,
Yeah. Punk's used to
we're
Chicago
gonna
fans, and they're
interrupt
not
this.
gonna. There's no Chicago
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, in Minnesota, Minnesota, we're like, oh, we gotta shush and
We
everything
like
like
you. We want to
that.
chant for you, but you might be saying something, and we don't want to be rude and talk over it. Yeah, very Minnesota of
Yeah,
us.
exactly. Like,
That's
yeah,
funny.
like leaving the last piece of food there and nobody ever takes it and stuff like that. I just think
So,
that's funny. I think like
di-
the rest of the country is very thrown off by how we are.
yeah, yeah, I believe that's true. We hear about it when people visit. Okay, so did the segment seem to go longer than ideal?
I think the first segment probably went on longer than maybe they're expecting, because it seemed like they must have cut some stuff. That's what it felt like. They were like cutting off certain things, like the very next. Was it the next
Hmm.
match or something like that? Like the entrance or something. And it just felt like they were maybe doing more commercials because they stopped. They probably weren't playing commercials there, so it just kind of felt weird. I think maybe during the first hour, like there was like
Yeah,
it felt like maybe 3 commercials, like, in a really short period, but it's hard to
yeah,
tell sometimes in the building if they're in commercial or not.
yeah. Because now they're actually showing
So, yeah, I
highlights
was
of significant things that happen during the commercial when they come back. So they're trying to make sure it's not obvious to
yeah,
people in the arena that it's just a long rest hold or anything like that.
yeah.
But what? By the way, Jesse.
You would
Speaking of
you can
Minnesota.
kinda tell, like, if they go outside.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you can still tell if, but they don't want it to be as obvious as it once was. I want to ask you about if
Yeah,
Jesse
yeah,
Ventura was
yeah.
shown on the big screen, and if he was shown in person at the building, or anything. Any reaction to him if he
No,
appeared on screen, and was he there in person, and did he get an ovation? If so,
no, he wasn't there. At least I didn't see him in person.
okay,
They didn't make it obvious if he was in person.
yeah,
We they did show him in the back with Triple H, and then they showed the thing where he tweeted or whatever, had posted something on Instagram about Jesse, and I think the crowd was, I think whatever. The thing is, like somebody else was saying, there's probably a lot more young people there who have no idea who that guy is. You know,
Yeah.
like they probably weren't even alive when he was governor.
Now that Kamala Harris announced that he's her surprise VP pick, I mean, a lot of people are going to get to know him, Mike.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would have been if Walls would have been there. Now people probably would have been more.
Actually, Walls should have been there. He's been on a roll. Yeah, he's become a national superstar.
I know, man. Imagine if he would have been.
I know. I never heard of him until a week ago. Now I've seen a lot of him since then.
That's what That's what I'm saying.
He-
I think everybody's dumbfounded by like how Minnesota people are now. They're like, what the hell is this?
Yep. Waltz has been a mega successful Democratic governor, and he's gotten national acclaim for what he's gotten done in Minnesota, opposite of a lot of, backward steps elsewhere in the country, moving into past policies. And what he's gotten accomplished is amazing. But I did not know, and I've seen him campaign in his commercials and debates. I didn't know he had this in him. He has been, an amazing spokesman for Kamala Harris these last couple of weeks, and just for just everything else going on opposite of his views. So he would have gotten a huge pop tonight, but
great.
That was something.
Okay,
you
know who got or what got a boo? That I don't think that was on TV, but I have no idea. When they advertised WrestleMania. The advertising of WrestleMania, everyone was booing.
Yeah.
Because it was supposed to be Minnesota.
That's funny. Well, there's a lot of rumors of being in Minneapolis at Bank Stadium. Yeah.
Like, boo, screw Vegas.
That's funny.
Everything. So that was funny. I don't know. I guess that didn't go on TV then, because I think they probably may have thought that one through to not show that, but maybe it was just for the audience there or something.
I haven't heard a definitive reason why they announced SummerSlam 2 years ahead of time, but I think it might have been in part or in whole to placate Minnesotans over not getting WrestleMania once they announced WrestleMania is going to be elsewhere. So they just like, you're getting it. You're getting a big show. It's going to be in the summer. We don't have to do it with your winter, whatever. But that's funny. That's a great anecdote. Chris, let me jump to you and see if you have any questions for or a question for Mike about his in-arena experience tonight.
Sure. What was the crowd reaction to the last part of Raw, which was Gunther and Damian Priest brawling?
Oh, so it went longer than probably it showed on TV. I think he did the South of Heaven on the table, but the table didn't break. Did you guys see that? You guys saw the South of Heaven on the table?
They went off the air brawling at ringside, and I took my eye off the screen while prepping for the show. So, but I don't remember seeing that. But I'm hedging just because I looked away while I was, getting set up for the show.
They were fighting near the table. So, it was kind of those things where they had the logo on, and I'm thinking, are they going to cut off? Are they going to cut off? And they finally did. My guess is that you in the arena saw more than we saw on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it did go like another 5 minutes after that. He did do a South of Heaven on him. The table didn't break. The announcer table, it didn't break. Then he got on top of him, held the belt. I remember there was cheering, but a lot of people were leaving at the time too. I know Gunther was getting boos, but not like Dominic boos. Not like, it didn't feel overwhelming. It just, it kind of felt like he was getting boos. I'm trying to remember exactly like how it was. I think people were kind of tired too. At least I was. So I'm not really sure. On how the reaction was. Finn Balor, I think was. That was almost me at the end there, and it had nothing to do with the show. Just because I was at the Mayo Clinic earlier today, so I went straight from the Mayo Clinic to Raw.
Wow.
So that was quite
that's dedication.
So I was done so after today.
Wow.
Gunther should have worn a Green Bay Packers jersey to get more clear boos from the crowd.
Yeah. Oh, I think Karrion Kross those people probably got a lot of boos because he had mentioned Minnesota and stuff like
Oh,
that.
right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. He did
typical
take a dig
heel
at Minnesota.
heat, to the
Yep.
crowd, which I thought was kind
Yep.
of funny because Paul Ellering was
Oh, yeah.
there, and Otis I felt like got good amount of cheers,
Mhm.
even though he's more Wisconsin than Minnesota.
Yeah,
Even
it's
though he
about
went to
45 minutes away,
college
but
here.
it's east. Yeah, across the border.
Yeah, and then Gable, that one
Yeah.
was the one I was curious about on
Right.
how people were going to react to him. I did see a lot of like signs for Gable, like I'm Chad Gable's #1 fan and stuff like that, but it did
Mhm.
seem like to me he got a lot of boos. Yeah, so Gunther I would say got a good amount of boos. I wouldn't say he was like the biggest heat magnet or anything though. And
Was
I
there an
wasn't
obvious
there to see the
Oh, finish, Mike. Sorry.
what's that? Sorry.
No, go
Oh,
ahead.
I wasn't there to see the Dominic thing. I had to go get. I went and got my mom a CM Punk T-shirt.
Oh, nice. Was there an
Yeah.
obvious top heel who got the most heat?
Well, for what I saw, it was maybe Karrion Kross or Bronson Reed because he kind of reminds me of Earthquake. You know what I'm saying? Where like
Mhm.
Earthquake would do like the bicep thing,
Yep.
like a
Yep.
big guy doing stuff like that. Like,
Yep.
so I think he was getting a lot then, from what I recall, and he was
Yeah.
going against Sheamus, and I think the crowd really liked Sheamus, especially I think people were just kind of tired at the end of that Finn Balor and Gunther thing. At least, like I said, I was, so I was having a harder time paying attention. And it
Did
had
they
nothing to
announce?
do with the show. It's just
Did they say? Was there anything afterwards that they told people stick around for a dark match, or was it just over after Raw?
oh shit. If there was, I missed it because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to get. I'm so tired. Like I'm just doing this just because I was excited to be there and excited that my mom got to
Yeah.
have her first experience at a
That's
show. So
that's
and she
amazing.
really
She got
liked
to.
it. So she was really glad we went.
So she never went to an AWA show. She grew up in Minnesota. Never saw Vern Gagne or anything like that.
The rest of our family did, but like she never went because I think she just thought it was a guy thing, you know.
Wow.
So I think they just watched it on TV at home and everything.
Oh, that's just. I
So
still can't
yeah,
get
maybe
over that.
if
That's great.
if Joel's on, he could probably give better, you know, whatchamacallit, coverage of the show because, like I said, I'm just kind of worn out. I was just excited to be able to talk about the show and tell my story about my mom being on it and
Yeah.
everything, or
Did
being
the
not on it, being there. See,
did the Mayo Clinic go well?
yeah, I mean, you're never going there for fun, so. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm getting a bunch of tests more done in the future, and they're trying. I got liver and heart failure, so it's
Yeah.
it's never fun going there because it's never
Yeah.
good news. It's always like, well, we can do this, and maybe we can do this, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
Yeah. Well,
I was on
and
here
people.
before when.
Yeah, I remember you
Oh
talking.
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, I
Yeah,
remember. I remember
Burnsville.
that, and yeah.
I was in Tennessee then. Yeah.
Yep. But I remember you talked
Yeah, I
about having
moved back.
family here. Yeah.
And I moved back 2 months ago. So
Well, the chat room loves
excited
that
to
you
be
took your
back. I love
mom.
Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, welcome back. We're neighbors here in Egan.
Yeah. Oh, you're
L.
in Egan
Archer.
too. Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
you talk
Yep.
about the performance there.
Yep. And Kelly Wells too from Egan. So, L. Archer said in the chat, love he took his mom. That's awesome. Kevin Tom said that's awesome. You took your mom. I know there's some other comments, people saying it's cool. So, you get lots of points with our listeners. Well, Mike, get some rest unless you want to add anything else. But we appreciate you calling in.
No. No, it's better to have somebody else on that can probably talk better than I can. So
No, you
thank you
did
so
great.
much
It was
for
great
having
stories.
me. And
Yep,
sorry,
thanks, Mike.
Chris, if I didn't answer your question properly.
That's
Have a good
okay.
night.
Oh, he's bitter.
Best wishes to
He's
you.
bitter. He's upset.
Yeah, it's the New York side of me is coming out
I
that
would
is
be-
not mellowed by my
Yeah.
7 years in Ohio.
Yeah. Okay. Have a
Take
good
care,
night,
Hi,
man.
Mike.
guys. Thank you.
Say hi to your mom for us, and it's great that she went.
Will do.
All right. Sweet. All right. Born's Legacy says, take good care of yourself, dude. Cool. All right, so we're gonna go right from him to Joel Donnell, who attended Raw tonight. Joel, welcome. You're on the air. You're on camera. Welcome. Sorry to startle you there.
Thanks, Wade. I'm just getting my my headset set up here. Just a second.
So we're gonna keep you just maybe 5 minutes because we want to get to another caller, and I gotta get out before. I'm not going 2 hours tonight. I can't. So we won't keep you long. But and Mike did a nice job filling us in on some things that happened. But you are an AW guy, and you went to a WWE show, so that's kind of the angle that I'm most interested.
Yeah.
From you is compare. I don't know what the last WWE show you went to. Doesn't sound like you've been there since their surge in popularity lately. So tell me about that as someone who's much more into the AW product.
Yeah, I mean, last WWE show I was at WrestleMania, so that's an outlier as far as crowd reactions and just the show overall. But I mean, I would have been at whatever the last show was here in the Twin Cities, which I think was probably at Target Center, but I can't recall off the top of my head exactly where it was. But this was over in St. Paul, and they had a gigantic crowd for this. You know, as someone who doesn't follow WWE on a week-to-week basis, and again, I mean, if I'm repeating anything that's been said before, or this just goes with people who watch WWE on a regular basis, I mean, enormous crowd. They were very hot. Everything on the show was over to at least some degree. You know, I mean, there was nothing that the crowd was actively rejecting throughout this. It's just, you know, how over was it? You know, it's either they're really into something, or, you know, they're into it. There's no like, you know, this sucks, let's move on to the next thing. So it makes for a very enjoyable environment, whereas a lot of times you watch a lot of AEW shows and they see a lot of great wrestling, a lot of great action, you get numb to a lot of that stuff, and some things just really don't resonate with the crowd. But overall, like, as far as this audience, you know, we talk about the sickos and you know, that overused term for AEW, a lot, they're hardcore ardent wrestling fans. And for this WWE crowd, I mean, it's very much like a mainstream crowd that you would see like at any sort of like NBA game. You know, this is just a very mainstream crowd where it's not the hardcore of the hardcores who are wearing all the merchandise and they're buying all the t-shirts and they're dressed up and stuff like you'll see at some of the bigger AEW shows. You know, it's just a lot of people who are in their casual stuff. They're excited about the product, excited to go to it. So I just found that as a big difference, because you look up at the XL Center, and like I said, they don't typically run in that arena. They're typically at Target Center, but they'll switch off between the two, and just totally filled. I was on the hard camera side, just to the right of the hard camera. And I mean, all those seats right there by the hard camera area were filled up. You know, people were very excited overall for just everything on the show. But as we were messaging before, Wade, we were talking about, you know, CM Punk and some of the other reactions to people. And certainly, you know, I was very surprised that CM Punk just did not get that same type of reaction that I would have expected from a crowd that was this hot for the show. I thought actually Seth Rollins, Jey Uso got bigger reactions than CM Punk, which was just very, very surprising to me. But there's just a feeling that CM Punk, you know, he's done a lot of talking. This feud with Drew's gone on for a long time, that it's kind of like, all right, get on with it and do something at this point. You know, we've heard you talk, we've heard you go back and forth on this, and it's just time to get in the ring and actually wrestle, and then we can, you know, start building you back up into being a star again. Whereas, you know, he feels like to a lot of the crowd that he's just kind of living off of this stuff that's all been done in the past. Any other specific direction that you want me to go into as far as the show?
Well, let me throw to Chris if he's got a question for you.
Other question, or someone mentioned, what was the reaction to Sami Zayn and Sheamus?
Yeah, I mean, Sami Zayn gets a great reaction. I mean, sorry, my camera's gonna focus, but yeah, I don't know.
Hold your hand.
I'm having a lot of trouble with this one. Sorry. But yeah, Sami Zayn gets a great reaction from the crowd. I mean, he's certainly not at the same spot that he was at before. You know, when he was in the feud with Roman Reigns and doing some of the other stuff earlier with Gunther this year. But I mean, he's certainly still somebody that the crowd views as a star on the show. And certainly Braun Breaker is also getting a good reaction, but not at the same level as Sami Zayn. Sheamus, you know, is somebody who also gets a good reaction. Like I said at the top of coming on here, is that most things on the show are over. It's just to what sort of degree. And Sheamus is viewed as, you know, a respected person, that he's not going to be somebody that you're going to view as making his way back up the card to getting to really that main event level. But, you know, he's respected as a worker and somebody who's been there for a long period of time and has, you know, made his rounds to the different shows.
From a crowd endurance standpoint, was there an ebb and flow to their energy level? It's a 3-hour Raw. Did it feel, Joel, too long, or did it just feel like just right?
It's definitely too long of a show. That there's parts of it that just drag, and the momentum that just gets killed in between the show. When they go to the commercial break, they turn off all the lights. They have some of these silly skit videos. Sometimes the announcers will, you know, view the crowd or the signs. Pat McAfee actually did a happy birthday song to Triple H that was just kind of awkward. It was just kind of cringy doing that. But, you know, the people who want to participate will in those types of things, but that's not everybody in the crowd who will do that.
It actually was Triple H's birthday on Saturday, so it's not like they sing happy birthday to Michael Cole every week, everywhere. There you go. That should reset your focus, but it's not. Well,
I am so sorry. That's right. It's not good.
Well, that helped a little. Yeah. So they actually, whatever. It's all right. Most people are listening to us on audio and podcast anyway. So, we didn't want to see your face anyway. No. Just try to look on the right side here. There's one
show. Yeah.
No, I'm joking. Chris is uncomfortable over there. Look at that. He's like, I can't believe Wade said that. Man, Minnesota nice. What happened to that? All right.
Yeah, that went out the window. Minnesota crime. You do it to your own people.
There was a lot of Vikings jerseys and logos there. They were selling that Vikings belt there for $600.
Wow.
Yeah, Vikings championship belt. It looks cool, but I mean, are you gonna spend $600 on that? Yeah. So I did not see any.
I mean, I guess if it's
that.
I mean,
if you're gonna have a Viking belt, you don't want everybody to
championship, so might as well buy the belt.
Wow.
As a Jets fan who saw Sam Darnold play, it's not really a Vikings thing. It's more of a Sam Darnold thing.
We have more hope than that. We've read articles explaining why this is a better system for him than he encountered elsewhere. We will see, but we have a exciting rookie waiting in the wings. Who I read an article. He sits in some sort of vibrating vibrating chair that costs like $300,000 or something. It's maybe not that much, but I looked it up. I'm like, oh, this sounds interesting. He's swearing by it. And then I looked it up, and it was crazy expensive. I'm not kidding, like tens of thousands of dollars. And so maybe that's what Sam Darnold needs. He can share it, and he'll be a Pro Bowler this year. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, we don't want to bore people with Viking quarterback talk. I'm still anyway. So yeah, we can go down that road. I have to end a little sooner than normal tonight, so I should not be diverting ourselves here. Joel, so did we finish our topic? I got sidetracked because of Minnesota Nice. I was being mean to you.
Well, we're talking about I mean, I don't remember the last thing we were talking about because we started going on Vikings, but we were talking about Sheamus and Sami Zayn.
Yeah, forget that stuff. I know what I want to ask. I'll forget if I don't interrupt you. The Rhea Ripley Dom stuff and Liv, like it was mostly video features and backstage stuff. So a lot of that stuff happened off camera. Are all the fans just like staring up at the big screen, watching this enthralled, or and did they react to things that were happening? The developments, Liv crying and burning photos and all the interaction. Like, did it seem like a lot of people were there to follow the latest, 4 or 5 segments with them?
I mean, people were really disappointed to not see Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan in front of the crowd at all. And it appeared that both of them were at the arena doing the backstage segments there. Yeah. I know Liv Morgan was doing an autograph signing earlier today, so not sure why they just chose to do that. If they thought that they had enough in front of the crowd, but people were really disappointed leaving that show. And they stuck around. A lot of people were in my section were chanting for Rhea, hoping that she would come out after that brawl, just to be a part of the Judgment Day with Damian Priest and Finn Balor, that, maybe she'd show up there, and didn't get any of that. And so, people were watching some of the stuff from the beginning. I'm sure people noticed what Rhea Ripley was wearing during that, and that got a lot of oohs and ahs from the crowd. Excited about her attire for the night. But as the show just went on, I mean, people, when they have those segments on the screen, people are really not paying so much attention to that. That's just the opportunity to get up, go to the bathroom, go get some concessions and stuff. So it's not capturing people's attention nearly the same way that it would be for watching on TV. So, and just with the sound that the way it is, and XL is typically better for sound. A lot of those segments are inaudible, or it's difficult to hear when people are not speaking up or using wrestler promo voice on it. So a lot of that stuff can just kind of fade into the background, where even for me, it was difficult to follow along exactly what was being said in those segments. You can figure out some of the stuff with Carlito going out there, take care of business against Jey Uso. But in other sections, it was just very difficult to follow along with that.
Any chants stand out that were either Minnesota-esque or surprising, or I don't know. Yeah, anything just in terms that maybe we didn't pick up on.
Really not really. They tried getting that CM Punk chant started, and it was pretty weak. It just wasn't. It was really surprising that he just really wasn't over to that same degree, because he hasn't been in the Twin Cities with WWE. Since his last run there, he hasn't made an appearance. I mean, he was with AEW in 2022 when they had a Dynamite here. But as far as the WWE crowd seeing him, I just would have thought it'd be a lot bigger, and there just wasn't a big chant for him. The WWE crowd, they get loud, they get excited about things, then they get tired as the night goes on. They start losing momentum when they go to commercial or go to these strange video packages that they have. But there's no real chance or anything that was able to get going, because it just felt like none of the matches really lasted long enough, or got to, or you couldn't get too invested in any of these matches.
Was it weird compared to AEW how the time span between a ring entrance and then the second ring entrance and the bell ringing, did it jump out to you as one, weird, to use the political phrase of the month here, and did it take people out of the show at all, or did the WWE do a good job keeping things interesting? Did they just turn the lights down and turn off music, or what did they do during these 5-minute plus pauses between ring entrances?
They did a variety of different things. I mean, it's mostly just they turn the lights off. It's a very dark atmosphere, especially compared to AEW. AEW has a lot more colors when you go to Dynamite or the pay-per-views, whereas this is just the red that's a very hard blood red, and the black. And then they turn that stuff off to where it gets very dark in there. And then sometimes they show stuff on the screen. And when I say like strange videos, it's like if you go to like an NBA game and they try to do these, a lot of those videos are hit and miss that they do, but they try to do one where wrestlers had like a box in front of them and they couldn't see what was in there, and they would feel it and try and guess what was in and so they were feeling things like raw meat and seashells and stuff. And it was just cringy, weird, and nobody was laughing or into it. They're just like, well, why did we watch that? But yeah, they do a lot of where the guys come out, especially Sami Zayn comes out there, everything goes dark. He just kind of sits down there, and just kind of, looks around a little bit. And then when the lights come back on after there's weird video, he's standing up and he just does his wave, like nothing happened. There's just, there's a lot of like more of that orchestrated feel of things where, like, especially at the end of the first segment, that's like, I wish like it would just give you such a different feeling if you saw like what happens when they dim those lights and go to their video package after Drew McIntyre and CM Punk have that stare down with each other, because they just like they're in each other's face, and then Drew just kind of backs off, and it's like, all right, now we're off camera, and it's almost like they just kind of drop the character a little bit,
really
and just kind of
interesting,
that they're in their face and tense, and then it's just kind of like, all right, now we're done. And CM Punk just kind of casually gets out of the ring, and it's like, all right, on to segment 2. And I would like to see just a little bit more of trying to hold on to that character, sell that a little bit more, versus lights go off. All right, now we're off. Let's go, go to the back.
Or Jack Swagger did his ring entrance once where he extended his arms and kind of jogged in place or whatever that bit was. And I remember watching at a TV event, the camera guy went up to him and said, "Oh, redo that. We didn't catch it." and he was like and he broke character, and then he's like, oh, okay, and then he just awkwardly went back into doing his thing, and I mean, I get it's a TV show and stuff like that, the curtain gets pulled back, but it was jarring to me that, yeah, they just go, oh, we didn't catch it, you need to go back into it. It made everything feel very much like it was a performance instead of just a camera filming something organically happening. So that's interesting that after the Punk Drew stare down, that they didn't bother to, or I shouldn't say they didn't bother, but that once they knew they were off camera, the tone was different.
Yeah,
and
it was very different. Through. Drew just kind of backs off, kind of leans on the ropes, and just kind of goes out, and CM Punk just kind of turns around and walks away. And it was just, it just really took you out of the moment, out of something that was supposed to be really intense. Certainly. And I think, for people who have been following WWE more closely, this feud has already peaked at this point. That, I mean, I want to see the fight. We're excited for it. But like, as hot as it has been in the past, it's like, all right, stop talking, just get to the fight. And then when they announced that they weren't going to be able to touch each other, that the stuff would be off, it was just kind of like, now we're not going to see any sort of brawl. So it takes away some of that excitement of that possibility of them, tangling it up with each other. The Seth Rollins part was really weird, of him just giving his own rules of he may count 1 second or count to 1,000,000. Who is he to be making up these rules? Tell me if I've missed something with that. But that was just really strange. But, he remains a very over character. People love his entrance music for whatever reason. I think it's really irritating music, and the whoa stuff. But he is definitely right up there with one of the most popular people on the Raw brand.
Born Legacy wants to know, was Samantha as awesome as always? She was great at entertaining the crowd when I went. Born's Legacy says that. How about ring announcing?
Yeah, I mean, she brings that certain kind of energy. I mean, she is very good at what she does, as far as she's that different kind. She's a very it's hard to explain to more. She's about the WWE universe and does the WWE style. And it's very different from what Justin Roberts does, which just feels a lot more personal. When he's interacting with the crowds or reading the audience signs. And Samantha Irvin is more like, we're at a live event. I'm going to read it like we're at a live event, and it's less, it just doesn't have that same type of feel, but she brings the excitement when doing that stuff. So I mean, I don't mind the way that she does her announcing or crowd interactions. It just doesn't feel as personal and as warm as when I've seen Justin Roberts do that for AEW.
All right, very good. Mike in the chat room, who was our previous on-site correspondent, noted somebody was asking about dark matches or matches before Raw. They had a speed match. Were you there in time for that, Joel?
I didn't see that. I know that Pete Dunne was the winner of the second speed match, but I didn't see who he faced. No,
it was one of the Creed brothers, Mike said. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I didn't see all that because, again, the traffic was very surprising around the XL. That usually, when I've been to past shows, it's like you're easily able to park into that River Center ramp, where instead for this, I mean, all these ramps were full, and we ended up having to park really far down onto West 7th Street, past Tom Reed's, if down that far.
I'll tell you my secret free parking space for hockey games that for Wild games I go to, Joel. So ask me, I'll pinpoint it on a map for you. Don't tell anyone else though, because there's not that many, but there's free on-street parking not too far away.
Okay, and nobody knows, you and me. We won't tell the other on-site correspondent.
Yeah, nobody knows about it apparently, because it's been there available for a few times I've gone to games the last couple of years. Okay, Joel, anything else quick you want to close with? We want to get to Rudug here.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really stands out. Just viewing my notes on this. I mentioned before merchandise, a lot of CM Punk, Jey Uso, Seth Rollins. But otherwise, like I said, in general, it was a lot more just kind of mainstream audience. Heavy boos for when they did the announcement did the promo video for the WrestleMania Las Vegas show. Obviously, Minneapolis losing out on that, thinking that was theirs. They had it in the bag. So it was timid excitement when they did the SummerSlam video. People are like, yeah, we got our consolation prize for this, but really nothing that stood out there. But I did want to say they did play that Jesse Ventura. They did that clip. They had Paul Levesque, embracing Jesse Ventura. I did not see him in the arena. I don't know if there was anything more with that, but really no reaction. They played the video, and it was kind of like, you know, it was just another thing playing on there. It wasn't like, whoa, oh my goodness, it's Jesse the Body Ventura. It was just another thing being shown on the screen, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting. Former governor, SummerSlam ref 25 years ago, and well,
And
new
WWE
generation of
Hall
fans.
Famer. Throw that
Yeah,
out there too.
yeah.
Hall of
Yeah.
Famer.
It was ironic because we were talking about him in the car. You know, for whatever reason, we brought up Jesse Ventura and we're like, man, because we were talking about buying that. You know, in '98 they had these like shirts for him. There's these dolls. You'd remember this stuff, Wade. That like, you know, they got all this different stuff of Jesse Ventura. And we're like, where all this stuff come from? And we're just talking about him for whatever reason. And then we see this thing online that he's there, but he did not make any sort of appearance in front of the crowd.
It was funny watching Jesse just start talking off Paul Levesque's ear when he got out of the car. It was just all Jesse talking, and it was totally, and Levesque just not humoring him. You know, I'm sure he's interested in what he had to say, but it was like Jesse can talk. You know, he's done talk radio. He and I worked at KFAN at the same time. We went to a Christmas party once, and he and I just sat off to the side while everyone else getting drunk and being weird on the dance floor, and Jesse and I just talked for like 3 hours about all kinds of stuff. That's when he actually first started really getting into politics. He had just read a book about libertarianism and couldn't wait to tell me about his fascination with libertarianism. And then, you know, like 8 years later, he's running for governor and doesn't want there to be any regulations by his vacation home when it comes to jet skis, because he wanted to jet ski and they were banned. Jesse's fun. I love Jesse. I've butted heads with him. I've got issues with him, you know, in certain ways, but he's such a personality and I've enjoyed my time with him. But every decision Jesse made as governor was, what would Jesse want to make his life better? It was just very, very Jesse centric. Multiple policies. There's a good book on his governorship that kind of backs that up. So if he hears this, he probably will be mad at me, but I want to hang out with him again sometime because he's a fun character. And I think a good heart.
I'll tag along.
Yeah, yes, he's a blast. So yeah, good to see him back in Minnesota. You would think that apparently not a lot of marijuana smokers at XL, because he would have gotten a big pop with his advocacy for legalization. He's got a business here in town. I think his son and some partners are running a marijuana dispensary, and he's been in the news for that. So that might have been why he was there. But yeah, Mike, as Mike, our on-site correspondent, said, he didn't get weed. Big boy Walt's got that. So he wasn't successful at being the hero. But I doubt it was a big marijuana crowd tonight. Sounds very, very family oriented. Not that family, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of moms and dads with little girls who smoke pot when the girls go to bed. But we're probably not going to cheer in front of their girls when that happens. Anyway,
there was plenty of kids there. I mean, not like the super kids crowd, but a lot more, you know, men and women there. Like I said, it was much more of a mainstream crowd. It's not your hardcore Bullet Club wrestling type of audience. One other note too is, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with the podcaster Chris Van Vliet. He was there. Cool. He was just walking around the concourse taking pictures with people. So,
oh wow, nice. Yeah. I don't know where he's based out of.
I don't either, but that was the first time I'd seen him at a show, and lots of people recognized him. He was just walking around and just you know, getting pictures with people. So, all
right, well, Joel, thanks. I gotta let you go. My producer's gonna kill me. I'm already 15 minutes past the time I promised to get on the show. So, thanks, Joel.
Yeah, thanks, Wade.
I appreciate you calling in. Yep.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care. All right, let's bring Root Dog in here for a quicker than usual video call. Sorry for having to rush your Root Dog, but welcome to the show. Thanks for holding.
That's fine. I'll be rapid fire. So you're just talking about Jesse Ventura. What do you expect him to do in WWE? Is he just a Legends contract now since the old regime is gone, or could you actually see him on WWE TV?
The interviews I've seen with him and read, it sounds like he didn't even know. But he was happy to get some Legends pay to just be on a Legends contract. So my hunch is he's going to be used in documentaries, you know, to comment on, you know, just be on call, to contribute to documentaries about eras that he called or wrestled in. And it wouldn't shock me if he doesn't make a guest appearance on color commentary at some point. It might, you know, might be at SummerSlam in a couple years in Minneapolis. I don't know. Yeah, but I don't think he'll be like a weekly fixture or anything. It didn't sound like he's going to be a talent, someone making. So what else, Rudog?
All right. So Michael Cole brought up something during the CM Punk Drew McIntyre thing where he was like, Drew McIntyre is like trolling CM Punk on his past, which meaning the photo that Drew McIntyre took of himself with Jack Perry. Do you think that was worth bringing up? I mean, I don't even know if you even heard it, but I mean,
yeah, I
I'm
heard
not
about
sure.
that. I mean,
Okay.
he took it down shortly thereafter, so I don't think it was. If it was authorized, it was deauthorized by someone else. But yeah, I felt that was that was ballsy. Probably.
I thought it was
I don't know.
hilarious.
Well, it's hilarious. I'm just thinking through the lens of WWE. I don't know that they want to have one of their top 4 or 5 stars and Drew putting over and giving publicity to somebody from the other company based on I don't know. I mean, it's fun and funny, but I'm just thinking from WWE side of things. I can understand them going, Drew, don't be doing that. Or Punk being upset too. Legit. I could see Punk just going, seriously, come on, we got to work together. That's disrespectful. That was a serious issue. And Punk it's not a work. Punk is very upset about what Jack Perry did and how it's been portrayed. So I could see him chewing out Drew over that. I haven't heard that happen. I'm just guessing. Anyway, go ahead, Rudolph.
All right, I'm going to keep firing along. So the Creed brothers returned to action today. I saw them both at Bloodsport in Brooklyn last night, and they really shined, and they really belonged there, with their mat-based wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the potential is with the Creeds now with Gable as, their kind of boss? Is it a help or hindrance?
I think it's a help. Chris, what do you think of how the Creeds have been portrayed so far with Gable? It's small sample size so far.
I think it's been okay. I think it would have been better if they were kind of established more, maybe become the tag team champions, since the tag team champions don't actually defend the belts or seem to care about being the tag team champions. You could have maybe established them as that and then have the Wyatt Six feud with them. I think they're in a tough spot because the Wyatt Six is so over, such a special act, and they're going to have to sell for them. I don't think it's putting them in the best position. So maybe after this feud, they can get a bit of a renewed push to kind of set them up to be kind of the monsters they can be.
Cool. Yeah. Rudog.
All right. So I'm firing along. Yeah. Last one. Speaking of Bloodsport, I mean, last night Shayna Baszler headlined the show, and she was an ultimate badass, fighting with Yamashita. And when she was in NXT, she was an unbeatable force. But then all kinds of crazy stuff happened in WWE, where she was a vampire to, just being off the card completely. I mean, is there a chance now with Paul Levesque in charge that Shayna Baszler could be a top level women's main eventer?
Chris, what do you think?
I think it's possible if you have her in kind of a gimmick of kind of being the shooter where she is. I mean, Bloodsport's a difficult show to kind of project into mainstream WWE TV. I mean, Bloodsport's kind of a UWFI shoot style promotion. They had a good show. I haven't seen it yet, but with wrestlers from all promotions, all around the country that don't typically appear together, appeared on that show. But I think for her, you have to give her unique opponents to show that style, and she could be a dominant champion, but she'd have to be someone who was a heel who got a lot of wins to kind of build herself up and build up her credibility.
Cool. Yeah. What else, Rudog? Anything else? You put your notes down, so I don't know if that was the end of it.
I put my notes down, but I still could say, this is the first time I remember WWE just saying it was straight up St. Paul, not St. Paul, Minneapolis. Is that something
I was pleased. I've berated them over it. I send them emails every day telling them, if leading up to the show, you better not refer to St. Paul as Minneapolis. They had a great aerial shot of St. Paul. I love biking along the river shore there downtown, and been in a lot of those buildings. My first office job, my summer temp job, was in the First Bank building downtown St. Paul. I have a lot of great memories there. Fun memories at the Science Museum XL Energy Center, of course. The old St. Paul Civic Center, the first wrestling show I ever went to, was in that shot, although the XL Energy Center is in place of it. So I love that they gave a really nice, flattering view of a full-fledged downtown, and they didn't refer to it as Minneapolis. McAfee said that was so loud you could hear it in Minneapolis, and Cole's like, you've been waiting all night to say that. So, I mean, they're like, what, 12 miles apart on Highway 94 and crossing a river, but they are very separate cities, separate mayors, separate cultures, and I'm glad that they got the city straight, and the insults were aimed. Well, Carrion just insulted Minnesota, but Seth said St. Paul, not Minneapolis. Seth would have been booed if he said Minneapolis. Anyone who says Minneapolis in St. Paul, even people from Minneapolis will boo him, because we want people who come into our Twin Cities to know that they are two equal, separate cities. So there's my long but still shorter than usual rant about that. You brought up Brewdog, not me. Go ahead. What else?
Well, one other thing, and then I'll be gone. I know you're a big 80s like new wave alternative fan, Wade. Seth Rollins, to me, I'm not sure if you know about the German performer Klaus Nomi, but he looked just like him today. He was like, I think the most known he was been. He did like a Saturday Night Live with David Bowie in the 80s, but so definitely a Klaus Nomi vibe. So check that out.
Well,
and that
email me some photos. I thought he was wearing the shirt from that Seinfeld episode, the puffy shirt. That's what the ref shirt reminded me of. Yeah, that was quite the thing. All right, Rude Dog, thanks as always. Fun talking to you.
Thank you.
What's your and you got your t-shirt? Yeah, so we got to show that.
It's just a Japanese Bullet Club shirt. That's all.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks Bullet Club with Japanese font. Cool. Thanks, Rude Dog. Have a good night. Talk to you later. Chris, anything else you want to bring up before we go? We had, the angle with Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker, Sami getting the best of him, which sort of portends Sami losing if we follow WWE's booking pattern. Thoughts on that or anything else?
Yeah, I guess real quick on that, and then one other thing. Yeah, when I saw that, I thought Sami's definitely winning. I did like the fact that he cut a promo that's making him seem like he wanted to win. I didn't like the fact that they seem to be moving him and Jey Uso into a tag team feud. At least wait until SummerSlam is over for that. And I should mention, I was very unhappy that Karrion Kross mentioned that Kofi Kingston lost the WWE title.
Yes.
In 6 seconds. I don't know if that's supposed to be a Brock Lesnar reference to maybe bring him back into the fold, but a lot of people don't like to remember that moment and didn't like hearing it brought up today.
Yes. I thought it was interesting, him wrestling in Japan and then saying, he wrestled, but then he re-aggravated his injury, because Kofi has this worked injury. He wants to wrestle in Japan, but then they show him, but then they explain it as opposed to pretending that, it didn't break storyline.
That was weird. Weird.
But I mean, I'm glad that they bothered to do that they, said, you just saw a guy who we said was hurt, and so we're going to say he just got back. Levesque had a clumsy bad answer when he was blindsided with a question about Brock Lesnar, and wasn't great thinking on his feet when he's like, I'd be happy to talk with Brock about a return. It's like, I don't even think you want to go that far at this point with the controversy that's associated with him, even if that might be the truth. But he's trying to be diplomatic, and anyway, that's a whole other non-Raw topic. So anything else, Chris?
No, that's it for me. Thank you for having me on, and check me out on the Wrestling Coast to Coast with Justin Collins.
Yes, search PWTorch, everybody. Subscribe to the PWTorch Daily Cast, different show every day of the week, with different hosts, different themes. WWE themed show drops every week. Joe Donnell, who is our on-site correspondent, does the AEW Conversation Club. We put up a best of show on Monday nights, and it's a cool episode. The best of show that we've got up today, that's going up tonight, includes Sting's WWE debut being talked about from 10 years ago, and also the signing of Prince Devitt, Finn Balor, who main evented tonight. And so, some cool stuff in the best of shows, and then, like I said, 6 original fresh shows every week, the other days of the week. So check it out, everybody. Thank you to our chat room. Thanks. By the way, emailers, we're going to cover your emails in the on the flagship tomorrow. That's the plan, since we didn't have time for it today. Thanks to Mike from Egan and Joel for being our on-site correspondents who attended in St. Paul tonight. And thank you, everybody. Keep spreading the word about our post shows here on YouTube. And, of course, subscribe and download the shows on your podcast app. Also, the more subscribers on those feeds, the better for us. And it gives you another way to listen if it's more convenient for you. All right, we will end there. And we'll talk to you. The flagship drops tomorrow, not on YouTube. And then Wednesday night, I'll be back here on YouTube. And of course, the show is downloadable on our podcast feed also. Take care, everybody, and enjoy your week.